welcome to the latest episode of the B Movie Club. This is your host, Kevin, and this week we'll be discussing the 1987 horror classic, The Gate, starring Stephen Dorff and some people you may not have ever seen before or since. For those of you joining us for the first time, the B Movie Club. It's a book club, kind of. It's an interactive experience where I will post online what movie we'll be discussing, and then you can rush home, dust off your DVD collection, watch the movie, and send in your questions and comments, and I'll talk about it on the show. Please go to our Facebook page, The Original B Movie Club, and click the little thumbs up symbol. That way you'll get all of our latest updates, funny things going on, and of course what movie we'll be discussing. Also go on to our YouTube page, B Movie Club, and click subscribe. It is totally free. Remember to tell all your friends to do the same. So, The Gate. This was a movie that I found quite frightening back in the day. Although it's pretty tame by today's standards. I believe it was only like PG-13. So there you go. It's good for the whole family. From your old granny to your newborn infant. Sit down and check it out. Basically, you have Stephen Dorff. He's a young child in this. He's like 13 or 14, whatever he is. In his backyard, a tree has recently fallen over, revealing a hole. His buddy from down the road, Terry, who's kind of a gothy, heavy metal guy, correctly deduces that this must be a gate to hell. Bum, bum, bum. But everything's cool as long as they don't do certain rituals. Now, how do they know it's the gate of hell? Because they found a geode in it. Everybody knows if there's a geode in a hole, that is a doorway to hell. Okay? I don't know where it's written, but I think it's common knowledge. Anyway, Terry listens to a lot of heavy metal music, and on one of the album covers, for those of you guys under the age of 30, an album is this plastic thing, okay, that you put on a thing called a record player, and it goes around and around and plays music. Not to be confused with the CD. Anyway, and on the liner notes of this album, it's like some kind of devil worshipping thing, and the light bulb goes off. Hey, that sounds very familiar to me, like that hole in my buddy's backyard. Anyway, one thing leads to another. Stephen Dorff's dog dies. They throw it in the hole for some reason. I can't explain it. His parents are out of town. It's just him. His older sister decides to throw a party. Can you blame her? And they do some, what is it? Light as a feather, stiff as a board. They lift up the little boy, and he's floating around the room. So you know something's going on. Basically what the story is that there were the old gods, demons, okay, who used to rule the world, but for some reason they've been pushed aside, and now they're using the gate to get back in. And the first demons that come out of the hole are these little kind of claymation-looking dudes that kind of run around. Not entirely frightening. They're about a foot high, and even little wimpy Terry, who's 12 years old, is taking care of them. So, but they goes from bad to worse. Again, they unwittingly complete the ritual. A giant demon comes out of the ground. His friends are getting pulled away. There's a scary scene where the workman comes out of a wall and drags some people off. I don't want to reveal everything. It's ripping, you know. It's terrifying. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. Okay, not really. It's good though. it's entertaining. Again, it was different when I was 13 watching it than it is when, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but it's different watching it when you're a grown man. Let me just say that. Still worth the watch, however. This was actually Stephen Dorff's first movie. You might remember him. He was in that Beatles movie Back a Beat. He played the lost bass player of the Beatles, Stu Sutcliffe. There you go. He was also in Blade with Wesley Snipes. He played the bad guy, Deacon Frost. So you've seen him. I was laughing several years ago. I was watching a movie. I used to throw movie nights where I invited a bunch of friends over and we watch movies together. And I was like, hey, it's Halloween, let's do some horror. And I was digging around through the Blockbuster Video, which I don't even think exists anymore. And I found this movie called Alone in the Dark. It's not the kind of movie you think it is. But it had Stephen Dorff in it, had Christian Slater, it had Tara Reid. I'm like, hey, this might be something. How did I miss this gem? Well, the reason was the movie was made well after the peak of these people's careers, and they're basically forced to make any movie to pay the rent. Do not go watch Alone in the Dark. That little gem is 1% horribly rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, so not Alone in the Dark. Go watch The Gate. It is streaming instantly on Netflix. It was filmed in Canada, so there's like all the other actors other than Stephen Dorff are Canadian actors. You might notice a little hit of A and You Hoser, Take Off, things like that. In fact, the heavy metal bands they talk about, or he's like wearing these heavy metal shirts like Killer Dwarves, Sacrifice. These are all like the hardcore Canadian heavy metal bands at that time. So if you have your iTunes, check them out. Anyway, like I said, it's streaming instantly on Netflix. It was a 34% rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. That's just a travesty. Let me tell you, it's much better than that. It didn't win any Academy Awards. I'm shocked, as I'm sure you are. But it did make a sequel, creatively titled The Gate 2. So there you go. Check that out. I actually have not seen that. I believe Stephen Dorff took a pass on that, and now his buddy Terry, the next door neighbor, is now the central character. So it has that going for it, which is nice. They were supposed to remake The Gate a couple years ago. We're still waiting. Could happen. Stephen Dorff is available, I hear. Although Stephen Dorff more recently was in Immortals. It's kind of a 300 Clash of the Titans kind of knockoff. It was in theaters a couple years ago with, of all people, Mickey Rourke. Haven't seen it. Who knows? Maybe it's good. Anyway, next week I'm going to be going back to the comedy realm. We're going to be doing the 1976 comedy classic, The Bad News Bears, starring Walter Matthau, Tatum O'Neal, Jackie Earle Haley, Vic Morrow. The list goes on and on. It is streaming instantly on Netflix, so check that out. Send in your questions and comments. As I said, you can reach me on our YouTube page, B Movie Club. You can also reach me on our Facebook page, the original B Movie Club. I'm also on Twitter at KD9575. So send in any of your favorite quotes, comments, favorite scenes, anything you want to talk about, things you want to get off your chest. I'm here for you. As you know, I end every episode with a totally out of context quote. And here it is. You've been bad. Very dramatic. Thank you for joining us, and be well.